Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules YouTube channel. We've got another video coming your way today, and it's a special one. It's AFL Grand Final week, so we have a Grand Final preview coming up today. It's almost just over a day at time of release of this video, a couple days away at time of recording, until opening bounce for the Grand Final. It's Geelong, it's Brisbane. Two of the last three Premiership teams going up against each other in a big game on Saturday. So that it should be a cracker. We're hoping it's going to be a really close game, one that will go right down to the wire, but we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, both of these teams, last time they played in a grand final, they both smacked Sydney to the other side of the park. So hopefully this one's a bit better than those two games, but as always, 2:30 kickoff, Saturday afternoon, MCG, Geelong, Brisbane. Little side note, if you haven't been around all year or whatever, we do lots of episodes, lots of podcast episodes, lots of videos throughout the year. And in our preseason prediction video, we did actually predict this grand final. We said Geelong to beat Brisbane in the 2025 AFL Grand Final. So we're a chance to get that correct. And we got 3 out of the 4 prelim finalists because we also had Collingwood in there. They lost. The only one we missed, we had Fremantle instead of Hawthorn. So we missed by a little bit on that one, but at least Freo made the finals. But enough of talking up my achievements for the year, which that's about all of them, let's be fair. Let's jump into the actual AFL Grand Final because that's what you're here for. This is the tale of the tape. Geelong, Brisbane. Geelong, obviously, slightly better record this season, finishing second on the ladder, home and away. Brisbane third. However, they obviously then met in week 1 of the finals. Geelong did win that one over the Lions at the MCG, whereas Brisbane had to do it the hard way. They played a semi-final against Gold Coast and then travelled back to the MCG for Collingwood in a prelim. And now they're back to the MCG for the 3rd time in 4 weeks for the Lions, which is crazy in itself. Both teams pretty high win record for the year, let's be honest. Head-to-head, they've played each other 3 times already this year. Brisbane winning the first 2, Geelong winning the last one, which was the qualifying final. Head-to-head over the last few years, they are 5-5 against each other, which is a random little stat. Shows that potentially, probably will be a close-ish game, this one. I mean, not necessarily, definitely, but it says that both teams have a genuine chance against each other. You look at the fact that this year's gone 2-1. Geelong had lost 3 in a row against Brisbane before they finally won the qualifying final. Obviously, these two teams met in a prelim final last year. They met in a prelim final in 2022. They've played in a lot of big finals against each other over the last 5-6 years. So this is just another edition of that. First time in a grand final, but a lot of history in big, important games against each other, certainly over the last few years. Last 5 weeks for both teams, Geelong win, 5-0. Haven't put a foot wrong for quite a few months now. They finished against with one of the easier runs home in the AFL season this year, but they've come into the finals and taken care of 2 pretty good teams in their first 2 finals. So I certainly don't have any concerns about that. Brisbane, on the other side of the fence, they went win-win, loss, win-win. So that one loss was obviously Geelong in the qualifying final a few weeks back. Last time both of these teams won a premiership, Geelong was 2022, which was against Sydney, with a very comfortable win. The team's changed a decent amount since that point, seeing it was only 3 years ago. They've still got a lot of the key players, but there has been a lot of changes. Obviously, Selwood retired, Isaac Smith retired, and a whole bunch of others have left. Whereas Brisbane Lions, they won it last year. We all know that. The main difference, there's a couple. Obviously, Ty Gallop's come in. Oscar McInerney was injured last year, so he missed out. Levi Ashcroft has come in as a first-year player. Sam Marshall is also a first-year player. So there's still quite a few players on the Brisbane list or on the Brisbane team this week that hasn't won a premiership, even though the team did win one just 12 months ago. So we'll move on to the teams as they've been announced. This was announced only an hour or so ago, so I put this little graphic together. It might not mean a lot to you, but it does, to me at least. So this is the teams as they've been announced. The numbers next to each player is there a little bit of a rating system that we do here. We do rate every single player using the All Aussie Rules rating system every single game. So there's a lot of numbers there. But basically, we give every player a rating that gives them their rating across a year. And then to get this pre-game predicted rating, which is what we've put in here, it's a combination of multiple stats. It's a combination of their 2025 average, their 2024 average, their record in finals across the last 2 seasons, and their record against this opposition over the last 2 seasons. And that spits out a number for their predicted rating for this match. Obviously, the higher the better. For context, the elite players in the AFL have an average of around 70-ish, just over. So anything 65 plus as a predicted rating in a game would be quite high. Different positions rate at different levels, obviously. Backmen typically don't get as much of the football as midfielders. Same with forward line players, so they typically are a little bit lower. Ruckmen rate the same as midfielders, basically. And yeah, that's the long and the short of it. Both teams have made one change each, obviously kind of through necessity in a way. Definitely Geelong's was a necessity, with Tom Stewart going out due to concussion. And he's replaced in that team from last week by Reece Stanley today, or for this weekend's game. So it does change their lineup. It changed their probably dynamic a little bit when you think about it. Obviously, Tom Stewart, your medium-sized defender that plays loose a lot. Your ball user in that back half, moving into the midfield at times. Losing that is obviously a massive, massive loss. He would have probably been in their top 3 rated predicted players going into this game. So it's a massive loss. It changes the team. Obviously, Reece Stanley comes in to be the ruckman, which then frees up Mark Blixarves to play a different role. He's obviously been carrying the load as the ruckman over the last couple games. Whether they use him as the backman, which is a genuine possibility. He's obviously played key backman a fair bit this year. He's also played wing. He's also played forward. So there's a lot of different roles on offer for him. Obviously, the obvious hole that maybe they have right now is the fact that Tom Stewart's out of that back line. So who's there going to be their main distributor from that back half throughout this game? Because they might not go with that loose defence now, but well, you probably don't want to do the loose defenceman against Brisbane because Harris Andrews will do the same on the other end and destroy you. So maybe they go 1-for-1 and their midfielders get back and everybody gets back and they use the ball through pretty much everyone. We'll see how that plays out. On the other side of the fence, Brisbane made one change. Jared Berry obviously did his shoulder in the second quarter, I think, against Collingwood last week. So he goes out, and in comes Lachie Neale in the quickest recovery of all time. Not officially, obviously, but a very quick recovery from him. Has seen him come back after doing his calf just a couple weeks ago against Geelong, in fact. He's back, and he's going to be playing, apparently. Is it a risk? Absolutely. It's a grand final, though, so you don't blame them at all. Like, let's be fair. What are you going to do? Like, yeah. Yeah, it's a grand final. You got to take a risk. Um, just some notes, I guess, on grand final teams who's playing their first grand final, who's going for their first premiership and whatnot. Um, Brisbane, they have 4 players that are making their grand final debut. We did go through them before. Sam Marshall, Levi Ashcroft, Ty Gallop, and Bruce Reville are all making their grand final debuts, whereas Geelong have 10 players making their grand final debuts. They are Connor O'Sullivan, Austin Mullen, Maxi Holmes, who was unlucky last time in the grand final, if you remember back to 2022. Ollie Dempsey, Sean Manor, Shannon Neal, Lawson Humphries, Jack Martin, Jack Bowies, and Jai Clark, all making their grand final debuts. The Brisbane team, compared to last year's grand final team that obviously won the premiership, they've made quite a few changes. There's no doubt about it. Noah Answorth out, Jack Payne out, obviously injuries to them and Jared Berry. Joe Danaher retired. Eric Hipwood's been injured for a fair chunk of this season. Connor McKenna also out. So you're looking at 6 changes from last year's team. And 6 ins, obviously. Sam Marshall, Levi Ashcroft, Ty Gallop, Oscar McInerney, Darcy Gardner, and Bruce Revel. The Cats, 2022 compared to 2025, they also lose quite a few players. Obviously, it's been a few more years. There's been a few retirements, but Colin Jasney, Tom Stewart, Tui, Buse, Duncan, Isaac Smith, Tom Hawkins, Gary Rowan, Cam Guthrie, Joel Selwood, and Brandon Parfit all out from that 2022 grand final. So there's some really big names, some really good players in that list. But there's plenty of talent too. Connor O'Sullivan, Austin Mullen, Maxi Holmes, Ollie Dempsey, Sean Manor, Shannon Neal, Bailey Smith, Lawson Humphries, Jack Martin, Jack Bowies, and Jai Clark are all in for this game. So quite a lot of changes from 3 years ago for Geelong. That's pretty crazy. Comparing teams here, I don't know where we start, what we make of this, but overall, it's a pretty even matchup when you look at the predicted ratings. Pardon me for this one. Highest rated expected players on the ground, Bailey Smith, obviously. He's had an outstanding season this year. His expected rating is a 70.2. However, his 3 games against Brisbane this season have not been fantastic. Just an average rating of 52. So we'll see how that plays out, whether that does continue on that trend or if he does bounce back. Maxi Holmes is their next expected best with a 67.44. He does have a decent record against Geelong so far over the last 2 years. Other than that, there's not many that are expected to do great, but they have a really, really good even list across the 22 or 23 players, in my opinion. I would imagine we will see Jai Clark as their sub, would be my guess. I can't see them doing it, having anyone else as their starting sub. Maybe Jack Martin would be the only other option, but I would think it will be Jai Clark. In all honesty, that is how I would see it. Anything else worth noting on the Brisbane side of the fence? Obviously, their highest rated finals player this season so far is Paddy Dangerfield. He was outstanding last week, 81. Back in 2022 grand final, he was outstanding. He played an insanely good game. He was unlucky that Isaac Smith probably just pipped him by playing also an equally great game. Different type of game, but certainly great. The Paddy Dangerfield game was very similar to last week's game, where he went forward. At times, he was an absolute contested beast. He pretty much single-handedly was winning contested football for Geelong, and it was insane what he did that day, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him do it again. Blixarves has put together 2 really good finals, but he has been ruckman. He probably won't be doing a whole heap of ruck in this game. He'll be their backup, most likely, but we'll see how that plays out. Brian Myers is putting together a good finals campaign, so he's another big name, or one to watch, I guess, in this one. Looking at the other side of the fence, Brisbane Lions, I would imagine that their sub is going to be down to 2 people. Obviously, Bruce Reville has been their starting sub last week. Probably good chance he is again. It's going to be him or Sam Marshall. You would have to think they are the only two genuine chances to be the starting sub. Kai Lohman would be an outside chance, but I can't see them doing that, especially after what he did in the grand final last year when he kicked 4. So I would imagine we'll be watching either Revel or Marshall as the starting sub. Other things to take note of here, a lot of good talent at the top of their ratings. Lockie Neal, Josh Dunkley, Hugh McCluggage, Dane Zorko, Will Ashcroft, all expected to rate over a 60 in this game. All of them outside of Lockie Neal have a really good record against Geelong. Lockie Neal's record against Geelong in his 5 games is only a 54-4, so a little bit down in that regard. Finals contributors, Will Ashcroft has absolutely been outstanding. Obviously, we all know he won the Norm Smith last year, but this year he's taken it to another level. First final was not great. He was okay. He certainly wasn't lighting the park up, but his next 2 finals have been absolutely sensational. So he's a big game player, clearly, and he keeps doing it. So we kind of probably expect to see another really good performance in this one from Will Ashcroft. Other than that, obviously their mids are going really well. Dane Zorko's putting together a really good finals campaign and 2025 campaign altogether, but certainly finals. He goes really well against Geelong as well, so there's another one. Zach Bailey goes above his normal average against Geelong. Another one worth noting. He's in good form. He played a really important role against Collingwood last week. Their defenders are playing really great. Harris Andrews tore Collingwood apart last week, and throughout this whole finals campaign has been really good, averaging a 67 in finals, where his average during the home and away season was a 50. So his last 3 games have been super. Same can be said for Darcy Wilmot. He's playing some really, really good football as well. So I think mostly their backline and their midfield is absolutely in fine form. Their tall forwards are playing good. Gallup has been important, kicked some important goals. Obviously, Logan Morris is playing much the same level he has been all season. Some of their smaller forwards maybe not so much, but their defence and midfield is absolutely playing outstanding football so far throughout the finals. And I see that being a major factor in this game for both teams. Okay, now we've got like a little bit of a comparison of the different lines based on where they're lining up in the grand final and where they usually line up as well. So a bit of a mix of both. You're looking at an interesting little stat sheet there that, like, they're pretty even across the board. You look at it, it's only 1.5 points difference in the back line, but both teams, in the Geelong back line that is, and the Brisbane forward line, but both teams scoring reasonably low there, 41-6 to a 40-06. You go to the other end of the ground, whereas the Geelong forward line, and both teams score a lot higher than the other end. Geelong 47, Brisbane a 46. So a massive difference right there. Then your midfield line, which you expect to be the highest scoring area of your ground, due to the fact that that's where the ball spends the most time and players follow the ball the most from the midfield. Once again, really close rating though. Brisbane slightly in front there. And then your bench line, Brisbane seem to have the stronger interchange based on the numbers that we put forward for the predicted ratings for players. Interesting to note, something that I just didn't quite mention before when we were going through the 2025 the predicted numbers, sorry, was Jeremy Cameron. His inability so far over the last couple seasons to play well against Brisbane has been noticeable, I would say. He's played 5 matches against Brisbane over last season and this year with an average rating of 36.2. In comparison, his season rating for this year as a whole for every single match is a 57.7. His rating for the 2024 season was a 55.7, and his rating for the final series this year so far, which has only been 2 games, one of them against Brisbane, is a 56.4. So overall, he doesn't have the best record against Brisbane. In fact, one of his better ones was probably that qualifying final. But it's just interesting to note a 20-point drop in rating against Brisbane compared to his normal average is quite a significant drop. So that's just something worth noting. I don't think it's going to be a genuine issue for Cameron or the Cats on Saturday, but just keep in mind that when you're thinking about Norm Smith for first goal kicker or who you think might win this game. As you can see, the overall rating there is just the average of every player, the average predicted rating. And you can see it's very, very close. Brisbane's slightly in front, thanks to mainly their midfield and their interchange, whereas Geelong are better in the other two lines, but it is what it is. We move to the next page, and this is our prediction for the grand final. We're going with Geelong. We've been with them all season. From pre-season, they have been our pick for the Premiership. We're not steering clear now. We're sticking strong with them. This is a game that I can genuinely see going either way. It's an absolute 50-50 in my mind. But we've got to take one of them, and why not go the team that we've been on all season? Geelong Cats by 17 points on Saturday. We'll jump into our Norm Smith medal picks, and here they are. Our top pick for both teams, obviously we think Geelong's going to win, so we'll probably stick to the Geelong side as our actual proper number one pick. Max Holmes, I think he's just that good. Obviously, Bailey Smith's probably the more noticeable player. He racks up the disposals a bit better. But I think Max Holmes just genuinely has a better contribution in terms of scoring and ability to affect a game a bit better. You look at his final series, he averages a 73.3 this season. His record against Brisbane is really good, right there with his normal average of 70. So I expect to see a really good game from Max Holmes. It's his first grand final. He'll want to make up for the fact that he missed out on 2022. So we're going with him. Our smoky for Geelong is Brian Myers. A little bit of a surprise pick, maybe. He's not someone that kicks a lot of goals. He usually contributes a lot of goals by score assists and goal assists and score involvements, which probably isn't something that gets too noticed in the Norm Smith voting too often. But he's definitely someone that can have 23 touches, kick 3 goals, and have 3 goal assists as well. So putting him as a little smoky bet for the Norm Smith. His final series so far has been outstanding. His record against Brisbane is pretty solid. He's been good all year. His rating is up this season on last year. So we're going with Brian Myers. For Brisbane, it's a tough one because Lachie Neale's the highest predicted rating player using our system. But obviously, he's coming off an injury. You don't expect him to go out there and do that. He was outstanding last year in the grand final, though, Lachie Neale. Unlucky not to get Norm Smith. Nothing away from Will Ashcroft. I think they were both absolutely outstanding. They were by far the best two players on the ground. So he's predicted to do really well in this game. But what do we make of the injury issue? So we've moved down. We've gone with Hugh McCluggage. Obviously, he was their best player last week against Collingwood. He was outstanding. His rating this year across the 2025 season so far, he's the highest rated Brisbane player across the year at almost a 71. He's been outstanding, and you just kind of expect to see him do it again here today, or on Saturday even. So that's where we're going with our top pick. I'm not super convinced. I think it could go to a lot of Brisbane players if they win. Dane Zorko is my smoky. I actually have a feeling he's a genuine chance for this. His record all season's been pretty solid, but his finals campaign, all 3 games, have been really, really good. His record against Geelong is really quite solid. Over 5 rating points better than his average over the last 2 seasons against everyone else compared to Geelong. So he's just looks like someone that could absolutely have 32 touches and play a very important role in this win if Brisbane are to win it. Obviously, Will Ashcroft won the Norm Smith last year. His finals campaign is going super, so you expect him to probably be quite high up there in the voting as well. Other names, obviously Dunkley was huge 2 weeks ago against Gold Coast. I just think that the other midfielders are probably more likely to win a Norm Smith than Dunkley is. Zach Bailey plays an important role. Cam Rayner, you can never write him off. He could kick 5 goals in a quarter and turn a game, so you keep that in mind. Obviously, Lohman and Archie both kicked 4 goals in the grand final last year, so you've got to keep them in mind. The talls, Logan Morris, Ty Gallup, have been important recently. If either of them get off the chain, you just never know. But the ones on the screen are what we are going to put in as our official picks here at All Aussie Rules. We'll be doing a review episode next week, so we'll go through these then and see how we actually went. Moving on to first goal kicker picks. We've done an obvious pick, a next pick, and a smoky. So the obvious pick, no surprise, it's the favourite for both teams. Jeremy Cameron for Geelong, Logan Morris for Brisbane. No surprises there. Worth noting some numbers behind first goal kickers for both of these teams this season. Jeremy Cameron has kicked the first goal of the match 5 times throughout the season so far, and he's also kicked Geelong's first goal of a match 8 times throughout the season so far. So, by far the most of anyone on either team. On the other side of the fence, Logan Morris has kicked the first goal of a match just once, but he has kicked Brisbane's first goal of the match 5 times. So, he's their most. Moving to the next pick, Shannon Neal for Geelong has kicked the first goal twice this season, and for their first goal 4 times this season. So he's clearly their number 2. On the other side of the fence, Charlie Cameron. He's kicked the first goal of the match twice this season, and first team goal of the match 4 times this season. And then our little smokies down the bottom. These are some little rough nuggets that we've found looking back through the season. Brad Close has not kicked the first goal of a game yet this year. He has kicked the team's first goal twice, though, so just worth noting that. Manor is 3 times first goal kicker in a game, so he's also a chance. Obviously, he wasn't as big of a smoky, so I went with Brad Close, but Sean Manor is definitely up there as well. On the other side of the fence, Levi Ashcroft. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. He's kicked the first goal of the match 3 times this season, so worth noting that. Archie's done it twice. And yeah, that's basically the long and the short of first goal kicker. Just some numbers for you. If you're trying to pick of which team is going to keep the first goal of the grand final, Geelong have done it 16 times this season. They've kicked the first goal of the match, which equals 64% of the matches they kick the first goal. So that's reasonably well over 50%, compared to Brisbane, who have kicked the first goal of the match just 13 times out of their 26 matches. So they're right on 50%. Going by that, I mean, they're all just numbers. It all is irrelevant once you run out onto the field of play. But sometimes looking back at history can tell you a little bit about the future. And looking at the numbers, you'd suggest it's going to be a Geelong player, and you'd suggest it's likely to be Jeremy Cameron if it is a Geelong player. So that's the numbers. Obviously, we said that they've kicked the first goal 16 times this season. 5 of those were Jeremy Cameron. So basically 1 in 3 times that Geelong kick a first goal, Jeremy Cameron is the man that does it. And if you compare him to every single game, so he's played 25 games, 20% of those he kicks the first goal. That's everything we have for you, I think, for this grand final day. It's going to be a cracker. I hope you enjoy it. If your team is playing, I hope they play well. I hope they win for you. I'm going to be sitting back, relaxing, watching the game. There'll be plenty of coverage coming all over social medias. Straight after the game, we'll be doing our normal posts of best players and that sort of stuff that will be going out within a few hours of the grand final, hopefully all the way through the night. And then on Sunday, the day after the grand final, hopefully by about 10 a.m., certainly by noon is my definite hope, we'll have our review episode of the grand final. So we'll go through everything you need to know about the grand final. We'll be looking at the best players. We'll be looking at all the key moments of the game. So everything you need to know from that. So that will go on YouTube on Sunday. So make sure you've hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and come back for that one, because hopefully it will be a good episode. It was one of my most watched videos last year, was the grand final review. So let's run it back. I hope you enjoy it. We're going to have plenty of social stuff, so go check it all out. All Aussie Rules everywhere. Podcast goes live twice a week. Go check that out. I'm Jay. This is All Aussie Rules YouTube channel. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, the grand final preview. Who's going to win? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you on the next one.